Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, the audio version of our Facebook Live series, Art Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and I am so excited that you're here to catch the weekly replay of my laid-back yet very inspiring conversations with other full-time professional artists. The purpose of this series is to show aspiring artists like you that it is completely possible to make a great career out of this art thing. And if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll see you there. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com, that's advancedmember.com to learn more. This week's episode features wildlife conservation artist Ekaterina Sky. This is another one that I brought on the podcast just selfishly because I wanted to meet her after following her on Instagram for over a year. It sounds kind of creepy, but she creates these beautiful, wildly saturated artworks that caught my eye right away. She is Russian, currently living in California, and about to embark on an amazing journey creating art around the world. She's about to travel to places like Thailand, India, Africa, all while painting and leaving her mark along the way. I see a lot of myself in her and absolutely loved getting to talk to another giggly, bubbly girl who's out there doing big things. So let me know what you think about this week's episode with Ekaterina Sky. Thank you so much for coming on here. I'm so excited to virtually meet you. Can you just kind of start with a little bit of your background and just kind of tell us like how you got to where you are as an artist, or saying like where you are exactly? I know you're traveling.
Right. Okay, so how I became an artist, I think it started all when, as a child, my way of talking and expressing myself was through art. So that was my way of talking without actually needing to learn the language. So that's where my love and passion to art started. And I loved to take art classes, you know, like as a kid, we all had like dance classes or whatever, but art classes was my favorite class. And I remember every time I would feel sad or alienated, or as well as bullied a lot as a child. So as in, you know, newbie coming from another country, like I had to kind of find a way to express myself and be myself. And again, art was that for me. And growing up, my family, coming from Russian background, they were saying that, no, you cannot do arts. This is not something that can actually be possible. And you need to have a career that is actually more secure and they can bring more income into your life. So I remember when I was applying to university, one day before the deadline, I called my mom and I was like, listen, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do anything else but art. And she was like, you know what, then it's okay. Do art, like apply for art school. And I was like, wait a second. All my life you told me I can't, and now you're saying I can? And I was confused. So I applied in the end, I still went with my first choice for business school, and the second choice was art school. I got accepted to business school. And I remember the first year of my university, I was lacking that creativity. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I don't know if I can continue doing it. And I remember my boyfriend at the time, he was like, why don't you just do two at the same time? Why don't you just create a collection? I was like, wait, what do you mean like a collection? He's like, yeah, like just set yourself a goal. And I was like, you're absolutely right. And so I decided to start my first collection and to paint my first animal eyes. It was 12 pieces collection that took me about a year and a half to paint. and I was doing it at the same time as I was studying international business. And I remember when the first painting that I painted was a bear, and my dear friend Julia, she posted it on Facebook, and I remember it got like 600 likes on one of the groups, and we were like, for Facebook, that's a lot. And we were like, okay, there is something to it. And she was like, she was so on board with me, and I'm so grateful to her for really pushing me and being with me along the way. And so, yeah, that was kind of like my story summed up in a nutshell. But right now I'm in California. I moved to Los Angeles a year ago, and yeah, I'm about to start my travels. And well, actually, I'm now already kind of like back and forth everywhere. So yeah.
Awesome. So where are you traveling to? What are you doing?
Okay, so the next week we are going to San Francisco, and then Lake Tahoe, and then to Burning Man. And
Oh,
then, yeah, I created an art piece about which I will talk later in your questions, because I
yeah.
know it's like one of the topics I would like to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after that, Southeast Asia, I think India and Africa, definitely on the list. I'm so excited. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, I bet that's so exciting.
thank you.
I've also traveled to a lot of different places, and so talking to
Yeah,
anybody that's about to do it, I'm like, oh, tell me all about it later.
yeah, absolutely. And just one question, where are you
Awesome.
based?
Yeah. I'm
Where
in
are you based?
Missouri.
Missouri.
Um,
Amazing.
Missouri, yeah,
We should meet
the
in person
Midwest.
once.
Yes, yes, if you're ever coming through the Midwest, please let me know. I'd love to.
Absolutely.
So what makes up your typical work day? How many hours do you spend painting?
Okay, so that's a very good question. And I will tell you one thing that I don't find that there's every day is the same day, especially for an artist. I find it's impossible to have like a, you know what, I'm going to do every single day this, and that. I feel like that's, for me as an artist, I'm so hectic sometimes, and like so kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily disorganized, but there's so many things that I want to do. And it's when there is an organization, when there's a structure, I have a tendency to break it. And I think that's when like my creativity strives, because it's just something exciting, it's something that's like, oh, I broke the structure and now I can do whatever I want and I create whatever I want. So, but when I am in the studio, I think a perfect days for me is that when a before I start working, I have to exercise, because then I can put myself into a zone, and I know that that energy of movement I can release, and then I can be more focused, and I can be more sitting, more stationary, basically. As well, I find like the main thing for me is I used to open my emails and to do all my like little messages and everything before I start painting. And then I realized that it's not a good idea, because sometimes I get carried away and I'm like, oh, let me do like another administrative thing. And oh, there's this thing that just happened. Or somebody messages me and there's like, I don't know, for example, a sale didn't pass through, for example, right? And there's this like negative energy sometimes that can get accumulated. And I don't necessarily want to take it into my workflow later on. So I've decided for myself to do that after my workday, like after I'm done painting, because I find it's so important to start painting with a good intention and with good energy that after it's being portrayed into the canvas. Because I believe when somebody brings an art piece to their home, they want to have a positive energy, right? They don't want necessarily to have something that has somewhat of a negative energy to it. So yeah, I think, but as for a work day, the only thing that is very important for me is to work during the daylight, because as much as I try to replace daylight, and like I got many different lamps and like LED lights and whatever, nothing could really replace the daylight for me, because I work in such a colorful in such colorful tones that to see the exact tone that I want is necessary to have the daylight.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
there nothing compares to daylight for sure.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
when painting or when you have like a light on you too, when you're like doing a selfie
Right.
or something.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's when the best things happen. Yeah.
Yes. Um, so can you walk us through your painting process? Is there any techniques you've learned throughout your years?
Okay, so I I think talking necessarily about like the painting techniques as they are like on the canvas is quite difficult without showing them, but I can tell you the little things that I find um, helped me a lot to stay more to have the best outcome that I want. And that, of course, means to have a good sketch and a good reference. Because I find when I do not prepare a good sketch beforehand, then I'm all over the place. And as I said, even though I don't like structure and I like to kind of like break that, sometimes having a plan of like what exactly is going on to the canvas is good because um, so I'll kind of tell you what I do. Usually, I do take a picture of an animal if I can. If I can't, then I go through the loads and loads of pictures from the internet, and what I do is that I choose the best ones that I like. And as you've seen, all of my paintings, there are animals facing straight forward, and it's very hard to find an animal really looking directly at you, very straightforward and symmetrical. Almost impossible. I've never found a picture that is perfectly what I need. So what I do is I digitally manipulate it first and I adjust the proportions of an animal because every animal is almost like a human, right? Like if the nose is a bit like, like you kind of have to have the proportions that will be appealing to aesthetically to a human eye.
Yeah.
So I manipulate the image and then I create a digital sketch. And from that digital sketch, after I create a sketch on a canvas. And as for painting itself, I feel having a base coat is so important. And so I kind of divide the paintings into like warm and cold colors. And so that first base layer, whatever is going to be warm colors, I add, for example, light yellow, and whatever is colder, it will be a light blue. So even though, sometimes you have this little white that sticks out in between the brush strokes, this annoying white dots.
Yeah.
That is like, I don't know why, for me it's the most annoying thing sometimes. So so I kind of try to get rid of it, and by creating that base coat that after helps me work faster. And the other painting technique I find that I recently discovered, which is not something new, but for me, I never worked like this before, is basically starting a painting. Like usually I work by layers, but here I was like, let me try and go from like one corner and finish everything in that corner and just like go like from the top and then like to the bottom. And then like as you go, like the painting just completes itself.
Yeah.
That was so good, especially in oil, because the paint is still wet, like you have everything there, and it was just so magical. And I created it so much faster. I was like, oh my god, this is great. Like I should have tried it before, especially for fur. Like it just mixes so well. It's great.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm like you. Like I hate that little white stuff. So I do a base layer. Wait, so okay, so you don't do the base layer on the one you did faster. You did it just from like
On this one still I did like first base layer,
okay.
but then like whatever still like the fur and all the details, and there's like, even though there's a base layer, there still will be like different colors. So just like I moved like this. But the one I did for that one was on the gorilla, and
Yeah.
it was black and white more, so I kind of like there wasn't that much color, so that was easier to do for that kind of style of work.
Awesome. So I recently saw you just did one of like your biggest mural. I watched your YouTube video about it actually, and so the biggest one. How did
Thank
you
you.
go about getting that big mural job and like how tell us about
Oh my God, that was okay, to be honest, that was my first mural of that size. And I
it?
I was honestly, when I got there, I'll be honest, I was like, what am I doing? Do I even know what I'm doing? And then I was like, no, you know what? I got this. And I just went for it, and I just trusted myself and just like the universe that it will be okay.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I just did the grid. Well, as you've seen, I did the grid that helped me to transfer the image
Yeah.
onto the track. And most of, like, in the beginning, probably until I did the outline of the monkey on the track, I was very stressed.
Yeah.
I won't lie to you, it was very stressful, but as soon as the outline was done, it was such a relief, and I got excited, and the work kind of just like started happening. It was magical.
That's amazing. So your first big mural was the size of a semi truck. That is so big.
Yeah, 53 feet, 53 by 9.
Oh my God.
Huge, like,
Huge.
but it's you'll be asking about my favorite project, and that
Yeah.
was that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's see. What is the one thing you don't paint without?
Okay, first, of course, my cat. I know
Oh,
you have a
okay.
cat too.
Oh my God. Okay, we have to meet.
So his name is Smokey, and he is the cutest thing ever. And I think my whole love to animals translates through him, because I love him so much, and I understand that there are so many other species and so many other animals that can then have just as much character, just as much soul as he does. And you know what he does? Sometimes in the morning, he knows that I should be by my easel. So he goes there, he sits by my easel, and he waits for me. And he is so cute. And then once he even like rolled in my palette, and he just like rolled in it, and his whole fur was covered in acrylic. I was like, oh my God, I was so worried. Obviously, I grab him, I run into the shower, and I start washing him. I thought he's going to scratch me. He's like, nothing. He was such a good boy. He just sat there and he waited till I washed it off. It was so cute.
Oh, at least it was acrylic and not oil.
I,
Holy goodness.
Absolutely. Oh my God, that would have been the worst.
That's so funny. I was just
Yeah.
painting the other day actually, and I had like some black oil paint on my brush, and my
Uh-huh.
cat came up to smell it, and I just let her smell it, not thinking she would actually touch it, and she had a black dot on her nose. I was like, oh no. Cat.
It's so cute, but it's okay. It's like it happens and it's washable. But there's another thing that I cannot paint without, and it's a wet cloth.
Okay.
Having a wet cloth for me is so essential because I used to, if I make a mistake, I would used to cover it up.
Mhm.
And and
Oh
then
yeah.
I remember once my grandmother, she was in my studio. She flew in from Israel and she was there and she was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I doing?" She's like, "Just use a wet cloth." I'm like, "No way." She's like, "Yeah, look." She comes with a wet cloth. She just erases it. I'm just like, "Okay,
Okay.
great."
Thanks.
So yeah. So now, like, even while like last week I was painting a mural, and that was like the best thing ever. Like, even like working with outdoor acrylic, it still works, and it just saves so much time. So yeah, my cat and the wet cloth. These
Awesome.
are the two things.
Awesome. So, did you inherit your artistic gift from your grandmother?
So my grandmother used to paint and draw when she was younger.
Yeah.
Never, she's a chemist, so she never really pursued the art passion,
Yeah.
but she has very good eye for aesthetics, and as well her daughter and my aunt, she
Okay.
paints very well, and she did go to art school. Now she has 3 kids, so she doesn't paint. But yeah, I guess we do have it running in the family.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Mine's on my dad's side and to my grandmother as well. So I was like,
Oh
oh.
wow, so nice.
Yeah. Are there any art lessons you learned the hard way?
Oh my God, you know what? Actually, that was this last mural that I was painting, and I'm actually
Yeah.
creating a YouTube video about it next
Yeah.
week. So, um, sometimes it's psychological. Sometimes it's our own doubt and questioning of self-worth. And I think no matter at what stage you are in your career, there's always some sort of questioning, right? Of like, am I good enough? Is what I'm doing is beautiful? And is this art piece is something that others will like? Like, I think, and so um, while I was so usually when I paint in the studio, it's me, the art piece, and I put out there whatever I think is right. And while I was sorry, I'm hearing myself again.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. And so basically, well, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna hold this face. And
Yeah, that's
so
okay.
okay, so while I was painting, it was so surreal because people were passing. There was the door right next to the wall, and they were like going in and out through the door. And then there's always this point at each painting that you are looking at the art piece and you're like, well, is this what I want to create? And because it's halfway through, you think that it's kind of going to look like this, but it's actually not. You just need to push through, and you know that in the end it's going to be gorgeous. You just need to go through this like almost artist block, throughout the painting, because like there's always this questioning of like how to go further about it. So as I'm painting this large mural, people are passing by, they say things which are all compliments, all compliments. But because of self-doubt, sometimes I'm like, oh, like they said this in this intonation, or maybe they actually meant that it's not good. And like there's this always this like little person, like, you know, saying to myself, like, oh, like they actually don't like it. Like maybe what if it's not good? And there's this like all anxiety that kind of starts to bubble up. And that was the first time I've experienced that, because it was in public and there were so many people that would see it as I'm working, and I was scared of them to think that that's how it's going to look, even though it was halfway done. And so all I wanted to say is that I've learned it the hard way by going through anxiety and questioning myself, and in the end it turned out beautiful. And what I would say to my future self is just know yourself, know your talent, and just go further. And if don't listen to anyone but yourself. And I think that was my lesson of just like having more confidence and just moving on with whatever I'm doing. I
Yeah,
don't know if it makes sense. It was kind of like a
it
mental
does.
game for me, like while I was painting. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely does. Especially painting out in public and painting in your studio is completely different. Yeah.
So
And
different. Yeah.
yeah, I'm at the point now. I'm finally at the point where like people will just pass by and I don't even care if they're looking. I'm like, whatever. But at
Right.
first, when I wasn't that good too, I was painting in front of like a whole crowd and I'm like, don't look at it. Like, and same with you. I used to think like whenever people came by and they would say it looks great, I used to almost think that like they were telling me it looked good um just to like try to make me feel better. I like that's what I told myself in my head. I was like, well, it doesn't look very good, but they're trying to tell me that it does so that I feel better because it doesn't look good. And so that was the story I was telling myself in my own head. So I definitely get it. We'll just go on to do you have a okay, you want to tell us about your favorite past project? That we kind of covered that, but if you want to speak on it
Right.
more.
Right, so my favorite past project was the big mural that I painted that we spoke before. And I think why I loved it so much is because it was something that I never done before, and it was definitely outside of my comfort zone. And I love doing things outside of my comfort zone because I feel like that's the only way that I can grow as an artist. And right
Mhm.
now I'm as well trying to get out of my animalized life, because I have like animalized style of painting, and I kind of want to kind of like push it forward. I want to change it a little bit. And yeah, so being outside of my comfort zone, every project actually that makes me do that, I love it.
Awesome. Definitely agree for sure. What are your future art plans or goals? What are your upcoming projects?
Okay, so because I'm going to travel, so I decided to do an animalized mural tour. So as I'm traveling the world, I want to paint murals,
Yes.
and it's something that's new to me and outside of my comfort zone, and it's something that I want to pursue. And so, yeah, I plan on traveling and just seeing how, just bringing more color and beauty into different places around the world, especially in third world countries. You know, color is free, you know, like, I mean not free, but like, you know what I mean, just like so much cheaper than like all this luxury or whatever, and it brings so much happiness. And I really want to reconnect people with animals, and bringing colorful animals into people's lives, I really hope it will really remind them about the actions that they have, that they do on their everyday life on animals. So yeah, that will be my goal for the next few months, is to paint murals around the world.
That's amazing. Can you even believe that you're saying that? Like, how cool is
No,
that?
that is really cool. You're so right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so excited to follow along with your journey. That is so
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and so I paint some wings around like places, and you'd be surprised,
Yeah,
like just like sending an email, people just saying yes. It just like blows
right.
my mind. And so
It's
just
so
send
true.
out an email, or you can just show up and be like, "Hi, this is me. Can I paint?" And they'll be like, "Okay, yeah, sure."
It's so true. It's so important to get out there, you know, because like if we don't, like I used to, before I started my collection, I used to think that, you know, the world is happening to me. Well, no, I'm happening to the world, you know, because
Yeah.
I feel like everything we do is in our hands. And definitely getting out there, and you're so right, going asking people like, is it okay, do you want this or not, it really brings you out there and allows you to progress in your career. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
definitely. Amazing. I love it. I can't wait to follow along. Okay, last question before the phone
Yes.
dies and we get it. Is there any advice that you would give to artists who want to make art their full-time career but just don't know where to start? Where's a good starting point?
Honestly, just do it. Don't wait. And I think like all this like procrastination of like, oh, you know what, I can't today, like I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Just put it aside. Do something for 5 minutes that's going to bring you closer to your goal. Or maybe it's not your goal. You know, some people they want to be rock stars, but they don't want to be playing in the bar somewhere. On Friday night. They just want to be there in their arenas playing to millions of people. But it doesn't happen. Like I feel it's so important not to think what the achievement will be, but to enjoy the process. And if you don't enjoy the process, maybe it's not your thing. But I'm pretty sure that most of the people who are listening right now, they do enjoy it, because otherwise they just wouldn't listen to a podcast like this, right?
Right.
So yeah, just do it. Don't wait for it. Make a goal and move towards it. Have a collection or have a project, and go present it to the world. And ask people around, speak to people about what you want to do, because if you don't speak, no one knows. And as soon as you start talking about it, people usually want to help. And those who don't want to help, it means that your dreams are too big for them.
Yeah.
And they just don't understand. But trust me, even they don't support you in the beginning, they will fall in love with whatever you do after you show them the first instances of success.
Yeah.
So yeah, just go for it.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. Well, you are a beautiful soul, and thank you so much. I love getting to get on here and talk and giggle with you. Like, I love that you're a giggly person like me. I'm like,
it makes the world so much better, right?
It does. It does. Awesome. Well, I cannot wait to follow along with your journey. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come on here.
Thank you so much for having me here.
No problem. We'll talk to you later.
Talk later. Bye, Dara.
This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years, with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com, that's advancedmember.com to learn more. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Also, if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop on over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll see you next week.